Hi everybody, it's Alex Newton from K-lytics, today with the Kindle market trends for August-September 2020. So let's have a look. We start with the overall market, and in analyzing what's happening in terms of trends and developments, we focus on the Kindle bestseller lists that we monitor every month. And from the top to the bottom, starting with the helicopter view, the top Kindle bestseller lists in August 2020 are once more the big umbrella category, literature and fiction, then romance, then mystery, thriller, suspense. Then we have non-fiction these days, followed by science fiction and fantasy, and then children's ebooks, then teen young adult. This means we are very much back to normal, the usual sequence of genres. After the period of the coronavirus COVID-19 lockdown periods, where in March, where the overall search interest for coronavirus skyrocketed on Google and in the world for that matter, we at the time saw a doubling of search interest for ebooks in general. Kids' books were like tenfold in demand. Certain non-fiction titles rose quite tremendously. But by now, the overall genre performance seems to have gone back to normal levels. Now, at the time when we here now overlay the coronavirus search interest on Google with that peak in ebooks, the question was, how sticky will the change be, the increase in demand of ebooks? Well, by now we know. So if we overlay the two charts, and these are obviously different scales, because the overall search interest worldwide for coronavirus is obviously X times bigger than for ebooks, but you see the relative development, and we see that the outcome here for ebooks right now is somewhere between what we call the inert and the fleeting scenario. And you also see that trend-wise, we see here an overall continuous increase in the ebook interest. And with this pattern, it doesn't come as a surprise that we had another highest ever monthly payout on the Kindle Select Global Fund as one indicator for ebook growth. So 32.4 million for the month of July, and you see that the last 5 months there was always an increase. So half a year is over, and you see this steep increase here in the first half of 2020. If we take those numbers for an early projection of the overall Kindle Global Select Fund for the year 2020, we can make a simple first estimate, because the first 6 months have always been, during the last 3 years, 56% of the overall annual fund size. So with this, we can easily project here a rough 376 million payout in royalties for 2020, which would represent a 25% year-on-year growth for the year in 2020. Let's look into some genres in more detail. And as always, there is no need to take notes. If you're not a member, you can download a free copy of the K-lytics basic report covering the data for all the main categories at k-lytics.com/free report. That's k-lytics.com/free report. Or if you're a member, you simply go to the basic section of the members area. First of all, the top genre, romance. Here, the top 100 performance measured over the last 18 months. And here you see this was one of the genres where we did see a dip during the lockdown period. You see here the sales for April and May quite steeply declining, but ever since the curve has been back up, and we are back up to a level as before the lockdown period. What type of romances have been read during those days? Well, we could do a whole seminar on it, but suffice to say that, for example, people went for more uplifting reads, and the most resilient romance category was clearly the clean and wholesome romance category, with an overall sales improvement actually over the last 12 months here of 58% in terms of sales rank. And if we plot clean and wholesome romance on our K-lytics strategy map, every dot is a category. The further to the right, the higher the competition, the higher up on the map, the better the average Amazon sales rank. So here the position, you see it is pretty high up on the map, therefore in the green zone, and we have less than 10,000 titles in the category. So still a very attractive category, and trend-wise, this was really a stellar performance during the lockdown period. So for the members, if you're interested, if you go a little bit further down, we still have here in the custom research reports the clean and wholesome report right here. It is from May 2020, so the view is actually still pretty fresh. But there are also interesting developments in other romance genres. If you take paranormal romance, as we covered it in our August 2020 report, just as one example, you see the blue line here is a 4-year trend line for the teen young adult related paranormal romance and fantasy category, which after a multi-year decline now showed an upward rising trend again during the COVID-19 period. So while romance has taken a little bit of a hit like other fiction genres during the lockdown period, clearly here a rebound. Now, an almost similar pattern in mystery, thriller, suspense, although here it was more like other fiction genres. It took a dip during April, May, but then June, July, here the summer holiday months, it went back up again already as people got bored during the lockdowns. But here in August, we see a little bit of a drop. And that is a drop that seasonally we see earlier now happening than compared, for example, to the last year, where the drop was more towards the months of October, November. Within mystery, thriller, suspense, though, there are, out of the more than 130 categories that we cover, there are very well performing ones. Just one example here: Amateur Sleuth, with 120% increase in sales rank, improvement in sales rank, that is, over the last 12 months. And if we look at the development here again during the last 6 months in particular, when things rebound with the end here of the lockdown periods, it underscores that people may have been looking for more uplifting thing to read. And when you have a closer look at the category, you will see that a vast amount of the titles fall into the cozy mystery side of things. Clearly not all of them, but a lot of them. So please stay tuned here in the members area also for the update of our Cozy Mystery Report. The last edition is September 2019, and we'll have a full 2020 update coming up shortly. Moving on to science fiction and fantasy, overall this big category has seen a bit of a decline, but you see it started already here, back in December 2019, starting here at this, almost peak performance, but ever since it's been sliding down. And the period from February to May has certainly not helped. Now we see a little bit of a revamp here in July, August, and we'll continue to monitor the situation. One question we got quite a bit during the lockdown period was, well, how about post-apocalyptic literature? And that is not teen, young adult dystopian romance. That's a bit of a different story. But overall, the science fiction post-apocalyptic category, if you put a trend line through it, we clearly saw a decline. But also here, it is interesting to see, yes, there is April, May, June, the lockdown period where it certainly hasn't helped, but the overall decline has started earlier than that. And also, mind you can also interpret this graph. We're back here in August, back at a level that we almost were, which we were 12 months ago here in August, September 2019. So not much is lost, actually. Teen young adult, it's a bit hard to read something into the graph here, but we had from February to May, we had here, especially the month of April to May, we did see an increase in teen young adult reads. Then it's been going back down to normal levels. But there were certain categories that have been doing particularly well. Also here, it was not due to the lockdown. The trend has started much earlier. One example would be the teen young adult dark fantasy category, with a 137% improvement in sales rank over the last 12 months, with a very steady trend line. And it is these types of books here seem to have been part in driving this trend. And what is favorable in this genre is if you then plot it on the strategy map from a category size point of view, you see we're still talking about less than 1,200 English-speaking titles. So that is why it's pretty much here to the left of the graph. But given the level of sales, it is here one of these very attractive, what we call hot cells in the K-lytics strategy map. So these are just some of the snapshots. Let's close with some news on pricing. Good news for romance. Overall, by the way, it would seem logical that if we have an increase in demand and increase in interest for ebooks, why should prices drop? Of course, they shouldn't, and they don't. So in romance, we've seen the continuous rising trends in ebook prices. Mystery, thriller, suspense has been very high about a year ago, so we lost a little bit compared to the last year. But if you just look at the graph the last 6 months, we have a pretty stable sideways movement. Also, just taking the last 5 to 6 months, sci-fi and fantasy with a stable sideways movement, or even a slight incline, ever so slightly. So overall, a very good climate for ebooks. Again, if you want to download the whole table of the top 30 categories, you can do so in the members area at the basic reports or the free report here, K-lytics.com free report. If you want to have a close look at the performance data of more than 7,000 Kindle genres, then you will need one of our elite memberships. You can find those at K-lytics.com, that's K-lytics.com. Enjoy the rest of the summer if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. So much for today. This is Alex Newton from K-lytics, ebook market intelligence for success.